Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Ask the Experts webinar series. My name is Richard Kaur, and I'm with WorkSource Atlanta Regional. I'm very excited that you could join us today because we have what I believe will be an interesting presentation and an interesting discussion with lots and lots of good information and great tips for creating a resume that will get you noticed. Yes, that is our main aim today, everyone. We plan to help you to create a fantastic resume that will get you to shine amongst a competitive sea of candidates. We're going to give you tips that will improve your resume and get your foot in the door of your ideal job interview. We also have on the line Miss Marla Bird, who will be sharing some information and tips for us later on in the webinar. She's a business solution representative for Corvell, and you can find her at the Gwinnett Career Resource Center. Marla is an expert, an absolute expert at what she does. She's a certified resume writer, and she has over 15 years of workforce experience connecting individuals and businesses. So she will talk with us a little later on, but first, let me cover some ground rules. So this is a live webinar, and we'd love to hear from you. We really would. But right now, we have muted all the mics of the participants, and we have allotted some time at the end of our presentation, and we encourage you to ask questions. So if you do have a question, please feel free to type it in the chat box, and Marla and I will be happy to answer it during the allotted time. We also wanted to let you know that while our career resource centers might be closed to foot traffic, we're still open to virtual traffic. So what does this mean? Well, it means if you ever need any assistance related to employment or training, if you ever need some career advice, or maybe you just need to get some help to update your resume or have it reviewed, please feel free to contact us. We are here to help you. The most amazing part of this is that it's free. We're a federally funded program, so the services are absolutely free to you, the job seeker. This is your tax dollars at work. So the best way to get some help is by logging on to our website at www.atlworks.org. That's www.atlworks.org. Fill out the contact information sheet, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you shortly thereafter. So why are you here today? Let me take a guess at it. Maybe you're planning to change careers, or you're trying to get a promotion at your current job, and you're just looking to revise your resume. Or, like most job seekers nowadays, maybe you've been job hunting for some time now, for a long time, and you've been sending out tons of resumes, but you haven't been receiving any of those scarce, elusive callbacks. Uh, um, in a coaching session once, the client said to me that looking for a callback from one of those many job postings that she had applied for was like looking for a needle in a haystack. And I really felt her pain. And that apparently is the situation. It is the reality for many job seekers out there. So that's the good news. You're not alone. But while I understand that this is the unfortunate reality of so many job seekers today, I also believe that if you implement some of the strategies that we'll discuss in this webinar, you'll be significantly increasing your odds of that employer reaching out to you, significantly increasing your odds. So whatever the reasons you had for tuning in, believe me, you've definitely come to the right place. At the end of the webinar, you're going to have some actionable steps that you can take to improve your resume today. So let me run through some of the topics that we'll be discussing today. I like to start off with a baseline because you never know who is listening in or what level they're at. So, my baseline discussion will be what exactly is the purpose of the resume. We're all going to also discuss what exactly are recruiters and hiring managers looking for. Now, that is extremely important because I believe if you understand what the decision makers are looking for, then you're better able to craft a document that will grab their attention, and that's exactly what you want to do. When you send out a resume, you're competing with hundreds, sometimes hundreds of other candidates. So you want to make sure that you grab the hiring manager's attention so that they can call you in for an interview. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the common mistakes that we see job seekers making. We're going to run through understanding the ATS, and Marla will go in more detail where that is concerned. But the ATS is the applicant tracking system, and that is a software that is typically the first gatekeeper that your resume has to pass in order to get to a human being. And she'll discuss uploading the resume, formatting the resume, customizing the resume for the job that you're seeking. We'll discuss popular resume styles. And of course, we're going to give you some resources and links for additional resume assistance. So after the webinar, if you want to follow up, if you're serious about really crafting a really good resume document, we have tons of resources to help you to do just that. So, what is a resume? Well, the resume is your most important job search tool. I've coached hundreds of job seekers, and the process can be it can be tough. It can be downright emotional. It can affect your finances, your relationships, your marriage, and it can even affect your mental health. So, finding a job is very, very important, and having the right tools at your disposal can make that job easier. It can shorten the length of time that you are job hunting, right? So the resume, I want you to think of the resume as a selling document. It is going to outline your education, your qualifications, your special skills, and so on. But it's going to do that by highlighting the achievements in a compelling and concise manner, right? Remember, the resume is a selling document. You're selling your skill sets to the decision makers. So you want to make sure that you're hitting points and you're doing them in a concise and compelling way. So now that we've gone through what exactly a resume is and the purpose of the resume, let me ask you this. True or false? A resume must be no longer than one page. True or false? The answer is false. There has been a myth that has been circulated that a resume must be one page, but it is just that. It is a myth. I can't tell you how many times I've been in coaching sessions and I've seen where candidates with, let's say, about 20 years of experience try to cram everything on one page, but they forget that the resume is a selling document. And I tell them, hey, if you have all of this good information, good, valuable experience, and you're cramming it on one page, you're doing yourself a disservice, right? So yes, it can be more than one page. Your resume can be 2 pages, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I try to tell my clients not to go over 2 pages. You want to show people that you're respectful of their time, and you don't want to give hiring managers these very long documents to read. But I say a page or 2 pages is totally fine. So change in life is inevitable, right? And the resume is no exception. If you've been a job seeker for a while, you'll notice that many things about the job search process has changed over the years. And there are some things that have changed about what is required to go on the resume. For example, it is no longer required that you put your full mailing address. That can be seen as a security hazard. And if it's not absolutely necessary, then why bother, right? What the employer needs to see is whether or not you're local, and the city and the state is sufficient in proving that. Also, when I was coming up, this phrase references available upon request, that was always at the bottom of the resume. Now it is seen as self-explanatory, like you don't need to put that on there because employers know that references will be available upon request. Also, and this one is pretty new, is putting your picture on your resume. And there are varying views about whether or not you should do this. I'm not sure if I said it before, but there isn't one correct way to do a resume, right? So many of the advice that you're going to get is going to be subjective. But what I can tell you is that I don't like the idea of putting pictures on your resume. Well, unless you're going for a job that requires it, like maybe an acting job or a on-screen personality. I don't think it's a good idea to do anything at all that allows someone that can be used rather to discriminate against you. And sometimes it's not just your skin color or your looks. A picture allows the person reviewing the resume to make wild guesses about your personality. They might look at a picture and like, oh, this person looks obnoxious or she doesn't look nice. You know what I mean? So I don't think you should put your picture on it for those reasons. Don't give them any reason to toss your resume in the bad pile. You should also try and remove irrelevant work experience. You should try to move like middle school information. If you have a master's degree, you don't need to put your middle school or high school information on it. And also, and this has been a few years now, the objective statement. You want to remove the objective statement. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in the following slide. So when recruiters open your resume, right, and they look at your name and maybe glance at whether or not you are local, the next thing that they see is going to be very important. It is prime real estate on the resume, so to speak. Um, and you have the opportunity here to really grab their attention. Now, the objective statement is saying what it is that you are looking for. To be honest, the employers don't really care much about what you're looking for. It is a more compelling argument. It is a more of a marketing statement, a selling statement to say to them, hey, this is what I have to offer. All right. So for that reason, I believe that the career profile or the professional summary, it works better because it's an aggregate of who you are and what you've done. It is going to highlight the problems you can solve for the company, the different skill sets, and the experience that you bring to the table. This section shouldn't be long. It should be no longer than about 3 to 5 sentences. I like to think of it like a sneak peek or a movie trailer. You want to show them a bit about who you are, like a teaser, but you don't want to give away the entire movie. You just want them to go and read more. So to recap, the professional summary should be short, about 3 to 5 sentences, no longer than that. And it's going to highlight your relevant experience, your skills, your achievements. And it should be like a movie trailer that is going to entice the decision maker to continue on to read the rest of the resume. So I said earlier that if you understand what the recruiters are looking for, what the decision makers are looking for, then you're better able to craft the resume document to grab their attention. So I'm going to go through a few of the things that recruiters have said that they're definitely looking for. One of those things is formatting. I won't go too deep in it because Marla will be covering that later on. Um, but this senior manager of talent acquisition said, when I look at a resume, the first thing I notice is if it is well organized and formatted. If I'm unable to read a resume easily, I likely won't look at it for very long. All right, so try and not get too creative. You want to make sure that the information is where it's supposed to be. Like I said, Marla will touch on that some more. The next thing is appropriateness for role. Now, one thing that the recruiters look for and hiring managers are whether or not the candidate fits the position, right? And how do they ascertain that information is by going through your resume and looking on your skills and your experience and compare it with what they're looking for. I remember coaching this client once. He was in customer service and he asked me to help him revise his resume to go after a project management position. Now, this gentleman had no project management experience, but he was pretty adamant that he knew how to do the job. And sometimes that might be the case, you know. But in this particular example, they wanted 5 years experience. He didn't have that. They wanted a PMP certification. He didn't have that. They wanted him to have a knowledge of certain software. He didn't have that. So in that case, he's pretty much just wasting the time of the hiring manager and wasting his time as well because there was no hope for him to get a call back for that position. So I suggest that if you're uncertain as to whether or not you're a good fit for the position, you want to do a suitability map where you get a pen and paper, jot down your experiences, your skill sets, and jot down the skills, the required skills from the job posting, and do a comparison to see if you'd be a good fit. If you have, say, 40% of what is required, then I would suggest you pass on that job. But let's say you're 75, 80%, you might be a good fit for it. So go ahead and apply for it. Um, Karen, who is a senior recruiter, said that the relevancy to the job description and requirements is very important. We get candidates that apply to jobs that are completely incompatible with their backgrounds or skill sets, so it can really clutter up our pipelines. And that pretty much hit the nail on the head as to what I was talking before. You want to make sure that you're a good fit before applying to a job. Evidence of business impact. So, this is another piece of information that hiring managers are going to try and deduce from what you've written on the resume. Hiring officials, they love quantifiable data. I think because it brings your achievement to life, it makes it seem more real. So anytime you can, please add some data, some numbers, percentages, the amount of time that you saved the company by improving a process, the amount of dollar amount that you saved the company by improving a process, and so on. The evidence of business impact is is really important. James Hitchens, a senior manager of talent acquisition, said, "Once I dig in, I'm looking for relevant titles and skills that align with the role that I'm trying to fill. I like to see concrete examples of actual work slash projects that they've done and accomplishments." So that ties in with what I was just talking about with the quantifiable data.
All right, so I spoke about professional summary, and I just wanted to give you a quick example before we have Marla come online. And this is one from a receptionist, an agile and well organized receptionist with 6+ years of professional experience in private and public sectors. So what she did right there is add some adjectives, sorry, like agile and well organized. She also pointed out that the she has 6 years professional experience, and she also pointed out the industry, private and public sectors. Right. You can also add the name of the company that you are actually applying to. That way you personalize it a little bit more. So skilled at dealing with situations and keen to support XYZ incorporated with organizational diplomacy, communicational skills, right? So this is just one example of a professional summary, and I'll give you some links to some more. So Marla, are you there?
Yes, sir, I am here.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, Marla.
Wonderful. So today I will be covering a couple topics. The first one would be popular resume styles. The second one would be customizing your resume for the job. Third one would be understanding the ATS system and uploading your resume. And then the fourth one, we'll talk about some different links and things that you can use for additional assistance with your resume. So let's just dig in. First, I'm going to talk about what is a functional resume, what they are, what they're best situated for, and then we'll go into chronological. So a functional resume, in essence, is a resume that highlights your skills and your experience. This type of resume focuses in on grouping your skills strategically so that a recruiter can see them up front and see what you have to offer towards a job that they're posting out there and that you're desiring to fill for them. Some of the things that this particular resume is really good for as far as job seekers out there is, for example, if you're changing careers, this gives you an opportunity to really highlight your transferable skills to that next job that you're applying for. Recent graduates, bless your heart. It highlights the fact that you have different skills that you've picked up in your education, maybe in your internship. You might not necessarily have a lot of experience, so we don't want to focus on that. So we want to really look at what skills you're bringing to the table from your educational and intern experience. Another one this is really good for is the job hopper. And when I say that, I don't want to have that sound as being necessarily negative, because sometimes we have to pick up different jobs at different points in time through maybe a temp service or something like that to just keep things going until we get that next job. So once again, this really gives that particular job seeker an opportunity to focus in on the skill sets and the abilities that they have up front, and then look at where the dates are. And that's where sometimes recruiters really don't like this particular style of resume, but it works sometimes to just kind of get you looked at. The reason why recruiters don't like it is because they can't really pinpoint how much time you necessarily have in these different areas and skills that you're listing above. And so they have to kind of look over your resume to find some of that stuff. And so it's a little turnoff for some of them. But that's the main purpose of a functional resume. Once again, highlighting your skills and abilities for the jobs that you're applying for. Now, where that comes into the chronological resume is the purpose of the chronological resume is simply that, listing the dates of your employment and experience and things of that nature. One of the things that you'll hear is reverse chronological, because most employers want to know what is your recent employment and then go back to your oldest. Once again, as Richard said, resumes are subjective. So some will require you to give 10 years of experience. Some will ask to just list your relevant experience. We suggest that you don't necessarily go more than 15 years back on experience. One of the ways that you can kind of go around this is if you have a section that talks about relevant work experience, and you kind of highlight some of your experience that might be a little bit more than older than 15 years, but it also helps you meet maybe their criteria of having 5 years or 10 years of experience in a particular area. So the purpose of a chronological resume is really to highlight your experience, the length, how long, how many years do you have this experience? And then, of course, you want to always bring the most relevant skills and abilities to the top of your bullet points underneath those jobs. For example, if you have sales and marketing experience and you're applying for a sales manager position, you might downplay some of your marketing skills and really emphasize your sales skills up at the top. I'll kind of get a little bit more into kind of why you have to do some of that in customizing a resume when we get into that. This style of resume, the chronological resume, is most preferred by recruiters, since it lets them see exactly how much experience and where you got it from. That's the whole point behind it being in order of dates and things of that nature. They want to know how long you've been there, how much experience you actually have, and where did you get it from. So that's why that particular one is preferred by recruiters. Okay, so let's talk about customizing your resume. One of the things about it, and I'll say this over and over again, and I know it doesn't really make people excited, but you have to change your resume for every job. And the reasons why I say that is because you really want to highlight the skills and experience that you have related to the job that you are applying for. With that said, Richard kind of talked about this a little bit in his presentation. But one of the things you want to do is print out the job description so that you can highlight key words in that job description that they are using as a company, that they are requiring their new recruits to have. And so the next thing you want to do is you want to look at your current resume and you want to highlight keywords that match up or similar to what they're requiring that you have. And once again, you want to look at how much am I matching up? Is it 40%? Like Richard said, you might not want to apply for that position. If it's 75 to 80%, yes, definitely go ahead. Definitely go ahead and apply for that position. But one of the things you want to do is you want to change some of the wording in your resume to match the wording that is in the job description. I'm not saying fabricate, but different words are interchanged all the time. And so when you are looking at customize, you want to make sure that when I talk about the ATS system, you want to make sure your resume is matching up to the words that they're looking for with that filter system. Okay. So, and also the other thing is you want to make sure that the skills that they're looking for are in the top part of your resume. So that summary section, you want to get in those 5 bullets or so, you want to get as much as they're looking for as possible in there, because you want that system to know that you have it. You want that recruiter to know that you have it when you make it to that next level that we're going to talk about, because it's so important. That's why you need to really look at those things. So another thing I want to emphasize is that it's okay to look at other resumes by Googling, for example, accountant resumes. Look at some of the different accountant resumes that are out there and get some keywords from that. Look at how they're presenting their actual results as far as on the job, because those things are important. One of the things that I will emphasize is results are measurable, reviewable, and proven. And you need to emphasize not only do you have this experience, but you can prove that you have this experience in some of your bullets that you're going to be putting underneath your job descriptions and things of that nature. That's the kind of thing that helps you customize your resume. It helps to get through the ATS system and into the human eye, that initially is going to take 6 seconds and kind of look at your resume and decide if they want to go any further. So you've made it through the ATS system, and now you have your resume in front of a human. You need to make sure you're making a strong statement and a first impression that is impressive to that recruiter, so that they can look even further and take time to look at your resume fully and know that you are the ideal candidate. So you're making a first impression, whether you're using a functional or chronological resume, but you have to put that first impression, because it is a lasting impression in 6 seconds. It's your elevator pitch on paper, and you need to make sure you do the best job of customizing it to the job that you're seeking. So the next area that we'll talk about, and if I'm talking too fast, just put it in the chat and we'll slow it down. So the next area I'm going to talk about is ATS. And as Richard said earlier, it is the applicant tracking system. It is a filter. The purpose of ATS is to store, sort, and select candidates out of resumes, thousands of resumes that are being uploaded online all the time for different jobs. Some people are going through the motions, some are actually out there looking for jobs and wanting to make it through this system. Key things you have to keep in mind: 50% of the applicants get screened out. I don't want to discourage you. I want to give you some tools to make sure you know that your resume will get through the system and onto a human eye, because that's where you want to be. Keywords, once again, I cannot emphasize that enough. You want to look at the job description, your resume, and use as many keywords that they are using in their job description as their requirements in your resume that you have. Second thing, you want to avoid using shaded areas. You don't want to use fancy layouts, colors, graphics, pictures. You don't want to use odd bullets like stars and things. You want to keep a standard bullet. You don't want to use columns. Sometimes what happens is the ATS system, which is a filter system, will not recognize some of these things and just kick you out. And you might be the most qualified candidate for that job. So the most simple resume with the most relevant information is the key to getting you through the ATS system. Keywords, I can't emphasize that enough, are very important. The other thing is your font. Don't use any of these fancy fonts. Keep a simple one like Arial. Once again, it allows the system, which is a computerized system, software, to read your resume properly. So also, when you use some of the fancy columns and things of nature, when it uploads into the system, sometimes it does not upload the way you put it on your resume. So it's very key. The other thing I will emphasize to you is some of the systems allow you to upload a resume. When that resume is uploaded, a lot of times it will do an alter fill on the system itself, which if you use, for example, a functional or a combination resume, it might not fill in the dates properly. So one of the things that we suggest, it allows you to upload a PDF style resume, which is a portable document format. And if you don't have one on your system where it can convert it for you, there are some free ones out there on the internet that you can utilize. But definitely be careful to make sure it's a legitimate site that you can download a free portable document converter format from. The other thing is that once you've uploaded that PDF, you can go in and fill in the actual information and the dates in the order, reverse chronological, that is needed for that particular application. That's very important. So keep those things in mind when you're customizing your resume for that particular job. Keywords, keeping all of the graphics and things of that nature out of there, the fancy bullet points, all of that. It makes it very simple. It gets your information in there. That particular ATS system is able to scan the resume and be able to find the keywords that moves you on to the human eye. And one of the things is, I'll emphasize again, keep the relevant information up top of your resume, because as it scans down and goes so far, and then, within that time, they're trying to look for keywords that matches up so they can move you on. So keep that in mind. So we've talked about chronological, functional, we talked about ATS. the thing that we talked about, customizing your resume. The other thing we want to talk about is uploading it. We talked about that as well. So those are some of the key things that we definitely can emphasize in your resume. The one thing I want to say to you as key takeaways, your resume, of course, is subjective. So there are all kinds of different resume styles out there. I suggest that, like I said, you Google, kind of look at different formats that are out there, get suggestions from other individuals that have put resumes together in your particular area, and don't be afraid to sample from those. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You also need to keep in mind that the resume itself will not get you the job. The resume is used as a key to unlocking your opportunity for that interview, to go in there and seal the deal. Okay. A couple other things I just want to emphasize is that there is tons of help out there for you, for your resume. And we really want you to utilize the different resources that are out there. One of the things that I emphasize with a lot of my customers, especially here in Georgia, is to utilize Employ Georgia, because you can go on there and format a resume just to kind of get an idea. It also helps you apply for positions that are out there on that particular website. You also can print that out and be able to use that with one of the career centers in regards to getting the resume reviewed and kind of maybe even restructuring some different resumes for you to use in the future. So that kind of summarizes what I have today, Richard. So I will turn it back over to you. And please, if you have any questions, go ahead and just put those in the chat. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Marla. We have 2 questions so far. Hold on, let me see.
So,
one second. Let's see. But before we do, I actually like to play this 2-minute clip of the ATL Works website and what it is that we offer, what it is that we do. I think this clip pretty much sums it up. So hang on 1 second. And then we'll go ahead and answer the questions. And if you have any more questions, feel free to type them in the chat box now.
Your dream job is calling. We're here to help you find it. Finding the right job or career can be difficult and stressful. WorkSource is here to make it easy. Our personalized, step-by-step process provides job seekers like you with the support and resources needed to get a great job. Our career resource centers offer all the equipment you need for things like printing and sharing resumes and cover letters, as well as quiet places to make those important calls. You'll participate in job readiness workshops where you'll learn how to market yourself. An advisor will help guide you to find the right career move, and you'll have support from the entire WorkSource team throughout the whole process. Let's say you're looking for a career as a medical technician. You may need money for training, supplies, and assistance for childcare and transportation. WorkSource is here to help. Or you may want to become a driver. You'll need to learn to drive a big rig and get your commercial driver's license. Georgia has many occupations that need great workers, and WorkSource's dedicated career counselors can help you find the one that's right for you. The bottom line is that our first priority is your success. WorkSource was designed to assess your skills, help with training, and find a job that fits you. All at no cost to you. WorkSource is a federally funded program. WorkSource, the help you need to get the job you want.
All right. So, yeah, that did a nice job of summing up what we have to offer at WorkSource. And now let me get to the question. So the first question was, what size font should the resume be? In general, I tell my clients that try to get it between maybe 12 and 14. You can go down as far as 11 if it's getting too big. but I think ideally I like to see a 12 point font. What about you, Marla?
I agree with you, Richard. The other thing is, for example, your section headers, you really don't want them to be any more than 2 to 4 sizes larger than the writing underneath there. So if you use a standard 12, then your section heading, you might want to use 14. As far as your name and that information up there, you can go a little bit larger. You don't want to have it taking up half the page, but 16 is a good one for that. And it kind of keeps everything kind of in portion and allows for white space.
Okay, good. And the other question is, Marla, what is the best way to handle gaps in the resume? And they're talking about employment gaps.
So one of the things is I'm hoping that individuals that are having to go through extended employment search and things of that nature is that they're doing some sort of volunteer work or consulting or things of that nature, because those also help fill in the gap. Also, the other thing is if your gap is related to taking care of families and things of that nature, or sabbaticals or anything like that, you definitely want to emphasize those in the resume as well as explain them in a cover letter. I know that sounds, a little questionable there. Once again, resumes are subjective, but you want to let that recruiter know, I'm not trying to hide anything. This is the reason why I've had these gaps. Also, if you work for a temp service for an extended period of time, you've been employed by them, and whether your jobs are sporadic or not, you also can use those to fill in gaps. So don't be afraid to put an employment service there, because if you've used that to stay in your life, that is where your time has been spent.
Yeah, perfectly. I agree with you. Not everyone will have a perfect employment history, and sometimes we have to be creative, but we have to be honest on the resume. So, like Marla said,
Absolutely.
yeah, just be upfront and honest. But there are different strategies that you can use that won't create any red flags. So, thank you for that. Is there any other? I'm not seeing any other questions, and we are running up close to the time. So, Marla, do you have any final words to part with? Any final thoughts?
Well, one tip I will share that I didn't emphasize earlier is I have a tendency to do what I call a historical resume. And on that historical resume, this is not one that I submit to an employer. It's one that I'm able to pull information off of as I'm customizing my resume. I suggest that individuals list everything that they've done as far as employment, education, professional affiliations, any kind of awards that you receive from your employment or so forth, or your education, because I don't want to leave out my new grad, anything of that nature, any volunteerism. And you put all that on one form, you put it in a chronological order, reverse chronological order, so that you kind of have that you can go there and pull different information off of that historical resume, as I call it, and be able to put it onto your functional or your chronological resume. That way it makes it a little bit easier when you're going about customizing your resume. And like I said before, every job is worth you investing time to customize it to that particular job that you are desiring.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for joining us, Marla, and thank you guys for tuning in. I'm going to also send some additional resources to your email once this is over. But thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Marla, and thank you for that wonderful presentation.
Thank you for having me.
All right, you have a good day now. Bye-bye.